The US President Donald Trump made no new announcements in his overnight address to the nation, claiming US military objectives in Iran were nearly complete. But he said he would continue to hit the country hard in the coming weeks. Iran responded by threatening to escalate the conflict.
Donald Trump's big speech lacked any real news as he repeated his talking points of the last few weeks.
We are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We are going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong.
It didn't go down well on the streets of Tehran. This nation will never return to the Stone Age. They should pay attention to their own history, which is only 250 years old. Not to a people who have been around for thousands of years, said Shahidi. But Iranians are suffering. Across the city there were long queues for hot meals handed out by the Red Crescent. The organisation said 3 million people have been displaced in Iran, 1,900 killed and more than 20,000 injured.
Humanitarian needs are rising by the hour. And increasing that international support is essential to protect civilians and sustain this emergency response operation.
US and Israeli strikes continued today, though the Iranian regime claimed they'd only hit insignificant targets and promised broader, crushing and destructive attacks against Donald Trump and his allies. The US president's speech had no mention of the ceasefire he floated yesterday, and oil prices rose as the markets appeared not to believe the war would end soon.
When the Strait of Hormuz is strangled, the world's poorest and most vulnerable cannot breathe. My message is clear to the United States and Israel. It's high time to stop the war that is inflicting immense human suffering and already triggering devastating economic consequences. To Iran, to stop attacking their neighbours.
But for now, at least, that message is falling on deaf ears. Fergal Gallagher, RTE News.
Well, our Europe editor Tony Connolly is standing by, but let's go over first to Washington to our correspondent Jackie Fox. And Jackie, as Fergal said there in his report, we really didn't get anything new from Donald Trump's speech last night.
No, Vivian, nothing new, no new announcements. As expected, this was about projecting American military might, hailing regime change in Iran, and also getting a dig in at some of the US's allies. Now, this speech was supposed to reassure the American public and financial markets that this war is justified, that it's not going to be a prolonged war, and millions had tuned in to see if there would be any detail as to when and how this war, this operation was going to end. But that just didn't happen. There were no efforts to ease those concerns. Frankly, we are none the wiser after it. And this speech probably should have happened a month ago when this operation began. So where does it all go from here? Well, it looks like Donald Trump is washing his hands of the Strait of Hormuz. This is not the United States' problem, he said. He also talked about how the US's military objectives are nearly complete, that diplomacy remains on the table. But for the foreseeable, it looks like it's full steam ahead when it comes to this operation. And we do have that swing between de-escalation and escalation.
Tony, in the meantime, the UK hosted a meeting of more than 40 countries, virtual meeting this afternoon. What's likely to come from that?
Well, Vivian, this was a meeting really to signal a couple of things. One, a signal to the Trump administration that his European allies were committed to doing something about the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the genesis of this was Donald Trump's threats a few weeks ago to essentially pull out of NATO if European allies didn't take up some kind of position militarily on the Strait of Hormuz. And that caused quite a bit of panic across EU capitals. And Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, pulled together a statement by 10 European countries saying that they could get involved in the Strait of Hormuz, about freeing up maritime traffic, but only after the fighting had stopped. Now, that meeting today was a kind of an outworking of that statement, and it was also a reflection of the real concern across the globe at the effect this war is having on the global economy, with gas prices up 70%, oil prices up 60%. Now, Emmanuel Macron, the French president, whose wife was effectively insulted by Donald Trump in remarks he made yesterday, said that there was no question that there was a military solution to the bottleneck, the chokehold of the Strait of Hormuz. And he said Donald Trump's remarks about his marriage and his wife were not worthy of response. The Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is talking about having some kind of humanitarian corridor on the Strait of Hormuz to allow fertiliser to be exported, or the ingredients that go into artificial fertiliser to be exported, because that could have a grave impact on global food supplies. But overall, this was stopped well short of the kind of military intervention that Donald Trump says he wants. And of course, Iran itself has shown no willingness to lift restrictions on the Strait of Hormuz. It's entered into a protocol, according to Iranian media today, with Oman about managing the strait in the future. In other words, what kind of payment Iran can extract from international maritime traffic.
All right, Jackie and Tony, thank you.
As the Iran war continues to disrupt global fuel supplies, the Taoiseach Micheál has said the government is not considering fuel rationing at this stage, and that there's enough supply to cover the country's needs until the end of April. But consumers are feeling the pinch.
OK, and go, 3.
A new service station was opened today on the Galway-Limerick motorway near Ennis. Its backer, Supermax founder Pat McDonough, says rising fuel prices may require more government action.
In fairness, the government have done quite a bit in reducing it by the 20 cents. But I think if it goes much beyond 2.30, 2.40, I think they will have to stand in again and subsidise some more, because people cannot afford to just see it go to 2.40, 2.50.
Motorists are feeling the pressure on their finances.
We're actually being double taxed on everything, roads, your wages, and it seems that they're taxing the working public.
I have a family with 3 kids, and we have 2 cars, and we find it very difficult now at the moment.
Even our local church is far away from us, and our local shop is far away from us. So, we're stuck really.
We have to have oil, we have to have fuel.
At the beginning of this crisis, the primary concern was the price of fuel. Now, the government can adjust taxes to lower prices, as it did last week. But as the crisis has escalated, it's now become about supply, and that's a lot more difficult. Today, the Taoiseach said there would be no rationing of fuel at this stage.
For hauliers, we'll have to look at food production more generally. But we hope this comes to an end sooner. No, we have supplies out till the end of April, I'm informed. And every month, people are keeping this on a daily review. But we'll know later in April where we are for May.
Tomorrow, hauliers will call for additional supports when they meet the Minister for Transport. They've described the situation as a national emergency.
Our Economics and Public Affairs editor, David Murphy, is here now. David, the Taoiseach saying there that there are supplies out till the end of April. But what happens then?
Yeah, and that's not very far away. So in the meantime, the government is preparing a public information campaign. It's expected that it's going to encourage people to cycle, walk and take public transport more in an effort to reduce the use of fuel. But by the time we get to the end of the month, obviously there are going to be some very difficult choices facing the government if the situation continues as it is. That's the supply side of things. And then you have the price side of things. Because of Donald Trump's remarks overnight, we've seen the price of oil go up to $107 a barrel. That will feed through to higher fuel costs again. And then the government is going to be faced with another choice. Is it going to have to go back and provide further subsidies by way of reducing taxes, potentially helping hauliers because of the rising price of fuel? So there's a lot of difficult choices coming down the track for the government. And in the meantime, consumers and businesses are going to be taking some pain.
OK, Economics and Public Affairs editor David Murphy, thank you.